Today is a very special day. It's a very powerful day. It's a day that I ride a lowrider ST. Oh yeah. So as you know, I'm still debating whether to upstage my Sport Glide or whether to go for another type of motorcycle, whether it's a tourer, whether it's still with Harley Davidson or another brand, as it were. So I am sort of searching around. I'm kind of looking at different bikes. Anyway, this is the bike that lots of you guys out there have been saying you definitely need to ride a 117 engine, and the lowrider ST is the one that you guys out there are saying is the one that's probably going to suit me the best in terms of power to weight ratio and also having that sort of touring-y kind of capability. It's got the Sport Glide bags on it. They're set higher up, but it's got it on it. Solo seat, only rider pegs, no passenger pegs on this. Of course, you'd have to pay extra for that. It's got mid pegs and controls on it, so your legs are set up like this a little bit. The handlebar height is just perfect. And the fairing on it as well, it still allows quite a bit of airflow through with the gaps on it. You've got these kind of gaps there and there and there. So for me, just riding around the block here, the airflow is just kind of hitting me here. So it's actually a nice cooling ride. Anyway, listen, enough of that. This is not a review. This is just me getting on this bike, having a go at it, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts on it afterwards. But so far, very nice indeed. Let's get on it and see how we go. Well, that, I've got to say, is a great ride for somebody else. And I don't want to say this, I don't want to be mean and horrible. The 117 engine, lots of pickup, lovely. In the bends, beautiful balance, nice riding position. You have to get used to it, especially if you're coming from forward controls, because it's mid-mounted controls, so your knees are up in the breeze a little bit. But the riding position is perfect for me, love it. But there's just something not quite right. See, I don't know what it is. I thought the 117 engine on this lowrider ST would really pack a punch off a stock bike, and I gotta say it does, but it's not mind-blowing. And I was expecting it to be a bit more mind-blowing, if you know what I mean. The other thing on this bike, I don't know if it's this particular bike or it's all lowrider STs, and I haven't compared the rake and trail of my Sport Glide to this one, but I think they're very similar. Upside down forks on the front as well, as is mine. But when you roll it into a bend, when you want to turn it, it really feels like a long wheelbase bike, in that it's very slow in the roll. Its roll rate is quite slow, whereas you'd want it to be just a little bit more, just a little bit snappier. Now that inherently makes the bike really stable, right? But you kind of lose a little bit of edge. Now again, I don't know if it's me, so if you ride one of these, no offense intended, but if you know what I mean, let us know in the comments. The roll rate on it is just a little bit slow, and that's associated with a long wheelbase as well. It just turns it just a little bit, it makes it stable, but just not, you know. At the same time, the suspension I thought was great, but not so great. You know, it wasn't anything better than my Sport Glide. It's a very similar setup. It's a Softail, of course. It's the same sort of suspension, but I feel on my Sport Glide it's just a little bit better. It just absorbs everything just a little bit better. Now again, that could be just the way this is set up, of course, so you know, I can't really compare like for like, but it's almost, it's the best comparison that I can make. I think the way the bike looks is great. I love the fairing on it. I love, you know, the basic layout of it. I love the way it sounds. You know, as a stock bike, I think this is a really good buy for people. But I think the way I ride and the way I would want to have a dual seat in it. I would want to have, rear foot pegs on it for a passenger, that kind of thing. All these kinds of things sort of add up. I look at the front mudguard and I'd say, well, that's exactly the same problem as my Sport Glide, in that, the oil cooler and the voltage regulator is just going to get completely trashed on for riding here in the UK. Now, if you're just riding on a day like today, no problem, no dramas, right? But I don't. I ride all year round. I ride in all kind of different weather conditions. So it's just, it's a problem for me. Now, I know I'm nitpicking here as well, but no LED turn signals, rear or front. I mean, come on. Also, again, this particular bike, so I'm not saying it's about all STs, right? And I'll have a word with a dealership when I get by. But the forks aren't set up correctly, the handlebars aren't set up correctly, because when you're going straight line, there's a bit of a kink in the bars. The left hand grip is further forward than the right hand grip, so it's about a centimetre and a half difference. You're kind of riding a little bit skew if you want to go straight down the road. I suppose for me, this is what I would say. If I didn't have my Sport Glide, and if I didn't love Softails so much, I would kind of lean towards this if I was only ever a solo rider. Definitely 117 engine, the way it rides, even though it's a bit slow in the rolling into bends and everything, I think it's a great ride. But it suffers the same problems as, let's say, my Sport Glide, in that oil cooler and voltage regulator completely exposed. I think the suspension is great. It's the better suspension on the Softails, no doubt, better than the Taurus, but it isn't mind-blowingly powerful over my 107, would you believe? I know I'm sounding ridiculous here, but there's not a great deal of difference. There is, but not an amazing amount. Now, mine's essentially, okay, I've only got a stage 1 and I've done a few other little mods here and there, but I wouldn't say there's a great deal of difference. The bags on these are Sport Glide bags, exactly the same, right? But they're set a little bit higher. I've always said, and you probably said on previous videos, I think they set just a little bit too high for me. I had a chat with a chap on the back about putting a rack on the back, and it's exactly the same as a Heritage Classic, in that the number plates in the UK sit on the rear fender there like that, so you're going to have to get a laid back bracket just so it fits under a rack. There's no doubt that this will put a smile on your face, and it does. It has put a smile on my face. But I suppose if I'm looking to either upstage my bike or change it, I'm looking for a change. I'm looking for something that is significantly better or different. Now, this is either too close, or it just doesn't hit me as hard as when I first rode my Sport Glide. I knew within 5 minutes that Sport Glide was for me, whereas this, I'm kind of thinking, well, there's this, and then there's this, and then there's this, and I'm thinking, I'm kind of beating myself up. I'm kind of, talking myself out of the bike as I'm riding along. Now, okay, this is only a first impression, but I think, I believe in first impressions a lot. And I believe if you get on a bike and it doesn't hit you straight away, and you have to grow into it, then I think, you know what, just stick with what you got. And this is what I feel with this. It's a great bike. It's nice. It's got a lovely sound even the stock. The 117 is great. It pulls like a train. It's brilliant. And I'm just, and it braps along fantastic. I like the look of it. Apart from the bags at the back, I think I prefer them set a little bit lower. But again, if I was a solo rider, which, let's face it, for the most of the time I am a solo rider, but I'd always like that option. But as I say, you're starting adding things on. I would say, if you want this bike, I would say, dare I say it, I would say get a Sport Glide, stage 2 Sport Glide. Even though it's a 107 engine, maybe get one that's had a fairing change, and you've pretty much got a lowrider ST, if you know what I mean. I know, controversial, I know, but it's a great bike. I don't want to put you off. I don't want to say this. All I can say, I'm doing these videos because it's for me. It's not about recommendations for anybody else. What I will say about this fairing, though, I wasn't sure of it when I first rode it and when I first got on it for the first couple of miles. But afterwards, I kind of got used to it. It doesn't make the bike feel heavy, but I'm just wondering whether it's affecting it in that roll rate, whether it's affecting it in the way it wants to turn, where it rides. Because, you know, if I compare it to my sport glide, and again I have to do that because that's what I'm riding now, mine is more agile. My bike, my sport glide, is more agile than that. And again, it could just be me, but that's the way I feel, so that's what I've got to go with. But in saying that, after all the things that I've said, that is a really, really great bike. It's a fun bike. It is perfect for the twisties. It is perfect for street riding. It just lends itself completely. Mid-mounted controls, high-up bars. It's great. Great as a commuter. Great as a, you know, a kind of mini tourer. Great. Lots of great things. I just don't think it's great enough for it to be different enough than what I'm already riding, and that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. I would say that the ones that I've ridden recently out of the Harley Davidsons, the Road King Special is the one that, you know, had more of an instant appeal than this. And I kind of feel, well, actually I shouldn't really feel like that, because this is a better bike in terms of riding, suspension, and, you know, the way it rides and everything. But again, can't help the way I feel. So there we go, that's a Lowrider ST with a 117 engine. It's a great bike. Love it. I just don't love it enough, and that's the honest truth, right? This is no YouTuber nonsense here. This is just an honest opinion. It's just not good enough for me, for what I want. But I know there's lots of people out there who say it's fantastic, and it is, and this is not putting it down at all. It's just, as I say, it's just not that much of a change that I suppose I'm really looking for. But I think overall it's a fun bike, great bike, and you know, if this is what you're looking for, you won't go wrong. You won't go wrong. Anyway, I'm going to go and have a bit more fun on this. I think, you know, put it through its paces just a little bit more and see how we go. But you know what, perfect for back roads, perfect for city streets, and actually perfect for, you know, a weekend away or even a long distance. It's all right. Right, catch you again. Ta-da.